have two distributors that are here that have experience with lots of products, some more successful probably than others, some that you've probably retired. But launching and scaling some products, we're going to get the distributor perspective. We also have a manufacturer/distributor that will provide their perspective, and they've successfully scaled multiple products. And then we also have an NGO that has taken on a key role in scaling and launching lots of products. So we're going to take a few minutes first to let my panelists actually introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about their organization and their role in scale and commercialization. Then I have some questions for them, and then we'll open it up for questions from the audience. So we'll start with you, Noah, the other Noah. They're already acquainted. The CEO and co-founder of Via Global Health. Tell us a little bit more about Via Global Health.
Absolutely. First off, thank you for having me. I appreciate being on the panel and being able to speak with everybody here. I would start with maybe a thought exercise. Imagine, just for a moment, having to do your job or do your studies or whatever it is that you're passionate about, that you want to succeed in, but not having the tools to do the job to the degree that you know you can. And I think, well, I know, for healthcare providers in resource-limited settings, every day have to face that same challenge, where they're expected to deliver quality healthcare to the people in their communities, but not having the tools to be able to do that. And I think we saw over the last several days that there's no shortage of innovation, there's no shortage of products, but there's definitely challenges when it comes to, I think as Tord mentioned, there's the discovery, there's the development, and then there's the delivery. And you can have 100% on the first two, but if you can't deliver the product, you have no impact. And I think for VIA, we exist to solve for that delivery challenge. So I'm going to sound like a bit of a broken record with the other Noah, but Via Global Health is the channel for medical equipment distribution. That's what we do. We think of ourselves as sort of an Amazon for global healthcare, so not the Amazon for humanitarian. I guess we'll have to start trademarking things. And again, we exist to help build awareness for products. We help solve the logistics to make sure that they can get from wherever they're being manufactured to where they're needed. And then sort of a key piece that's been growing in importance is around the financing and capitalization. So how do we ensure that the product can be safe, securely paid for? And then also, when it comes to capital availability, that there's, the money can flow. And so we now spend a lot of our energies around financing and sort of solving for that issue as well. To date, we're small, we're scrappy, we're based out of Nairobi, Kenya, and we've delivered products to over 90 countries and touched the lives of over 7 million patients.
Great. Thanks, Noah. You said that way better than I could have, just reading the stuff in the program. Dick, let's move to you. I know you have some slides as well. Dick Oranja is the executive director of Hatch Technologies, the other distributor on our panel. Dick, tell us a little bit about yourself and Hatch Technologies.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dick Oranja. I'm the executive director of Hatch Technologies. So I'm going to introduce the organization I work for, not my organization, the organization I work for with slides. Slides have a way of beautifying the introduction. So Hatch Technologies is a non-profit, a global non-profit that is affiliated to Rice360. We're part of the 22 organizations that is part of the NEST program. We were established in 2020 as a non-profit. We headquartered in Nairobi, Kenya, but we also registered in the US, in California, as a non-profit. So we 3 and 9 months. We are not yet 4 years. We are hoping to be 4 years by the end of the year. So our vision is to ensure that every hospital in Africa has life-saving maternal and newborn medical technologies. So I know that looks a big vision. Every hospital in Africa to have maternal and newborn equipment. How we do this is we hope to ensure that every hospital has this newborn and maternal equipment by transforming the way maternal and newborn equipment are distributed first and then supported. We do this because distribution and support of medical equipment has been taking place all over the ages, but still newborn mortality has still remained high. So what really led to the formation of Hatch is to ensure that we transform the way the distribution is made, and two, to ensure that we are supporting the support function to ensure that the equipments are at all times functional. We do this by measuring the device metrics. We measure the common device metrics of uptime, response to customer support. We also ensure that every equipment that is supplied is serviced as and when it's due for service. We have made some strides in ensuring that we achieve our vision. We have 8 distributors in 7 countries. We work through distributors, so we have 8 distributors in 7 countries. Just to mention a little bit about the countries that we work in, the first 4 countries, in the first 4 years, when we were supporting Nest in the distribution of the devices, we worked in the first 4 Nest countries, and that's Kenya, Nigeria, Tanzania, and Malawi. Phase 2 of the Nest program, which started this year, we've added 3 more countries. That's Ethiopia, Ghana is not a Nest country, and Rwanda. The last 2 countries we've added are because we have another program that we are implementing with the Gates Foundation to scale point-of-care ultrasounds. I've had a lot of point-of-care ultrasounds being spoken here, and CPAPs. So we have scaled 3,500 newborn devices in over 300 units. This picture I know is all familiar. I think Gradian or somebody has showed the same picture, so I'm not going to dwell on it, but I just put it here because I just want to focus a little bit more in my next slide on why Hatch. I mean, what are we doing differently? Are we just a distributor, or is there anything that we are doing that is different? And somebody initially used to call us brokers because many distributors just buy and sell. But ours is a little bit more than just buying and selling. It's more of solving a problem, but with a commercial perspective. So we are doing the distribution of devices, we're doing the support of the devices, but to solve a problem. But again, solving that problem with a commercial mind. So part of the problem that we are solving is to ensure that the problems are, the devices are accessible, they are always available. Like we all know in Africa, working capital is a huge issue. I'm not saying that we give money, but we try to support the distributors to ensure that the devices are always available as and when they are needed. Affordability, we all know, I don't need even to take time there. Maintenance, of course, and technical support, like I mentioned in our mission. And then finally, we ensure that we solve the problem of lack of trained users and awareness. We are doing this particularly in the second project that we've just started. That's the scaling of point of care and CPAPs. So I think I'll leave it there, and thank you. Looking forward to the discussion.
Thanks so much, Dick. Great. So our next speaker is Sashi Kumar, who is the founder of Phoenix Medical Systems, headquartered in India, where they not only manufacture many devices, but they distribute them in India and work with local distributors in Africa. Sashi, tell us a little bit more about Phoenix.
Yeah. Good afternoon again. Thank you for inviting me here to share my thoughts. Of course, as what everyone was saying, one of the important things is yes, innovation. But of course, insights, as what, again, all of us know, immersion and quality and service. This is what we have been always talking about, and that's what we believe in. So this was started as a university project. I founded the company, so it was a university project for me. I went to a hospital, found nothing was available way back in '89, and I manufactured, I would say, a prototype of a device. And that's what it started off, bootstrapped, still bootstrapped, 60 countries, 15,000 installations, and 35 years of operation. We are in, these are the sectors we are in: infant care, maternal care, COVID, and assistive technologies. We have around 60 plus countries we are in, 25K hospitals. Of course, I would say it's more than 5 million babies, and 35 years of experience. We have 3 factories in India. One, a big one in Sri Perambuttur, one of the biggest manufacturing unit in India. We have it in Pondicherry and Vizag. Vizag is a new plant which we have put up. This is, Government of India has come up with a program where medical devices as a separate park, and that's where we are in Vizag. There's a typical development roadmap in Phoenix, and I put in these small segments as that size of or the time which it takes for any of these things. There's a typical roadmap. Of course, one of the very important things we get into is testing and verification. It's very, very important. We keep on doing testing before the product is put on the market. This is very, very important because many a times the products come back because they have not been tested well. So this is one thing which I've found, and that's what has kept us going. Some of the products which we worked with, innovation-led external partnership. This is what I would kind of try to talk here. DREV, this is a phototherapy unit, Brilliance, and we brought this product, and we started off with the prototyping and out. There was another device which is again from IIT Delhi, which was a cane for the blind, for typically a travel aid. And that we started with the POC. Then we have another one, IIT Madras, which was a wheelchair with a standing feature. Then we have UMBC, where we worked along to create an incubator using cardboard. Then you have Embrace, many of you know about it. And that we started off for DFM, and they'd already put the product in the market. It's only the DFM scaling it up and into the market. We also did, again, another product from Stanford. That's the food operator resuscitator. Then again, from the verification, validation, regulatory, and so on. One of the key things which happened for us is the Brilliance phototherapy unit, which we put it in India, scaled up very well to the extent that there was a study which was published recently in Journal of Pediatrics, and they mentioned very clearly between 2014 and 2018, there was a sharp decline in the number of babies dying because of connectrix, and they contributed. And they're very clearly written in the article saying that this is to Phoenix and DREV, which created this thing. So that's fantastic. And then, of course, a ventilator, 100 days. There was a call from the Indian government saying that we have to create a ventilator. We did it in 100 days. The team in Phoenix did it in 100 days. And we are a company which got the CE marking within the next 6 months. This is another very important milestone we achieved. SmartCane, again, a technology which, again, we did it very well, again, scaled up so fast that we reached 100,000 pieces in a span of 3 years. That's it. Thanks.
Great. 35 years. Wow. That's great to hear that it also moved out of a university environment and has been sustainable. I think that would be sustainable, 35 years. Great. Okay, so we're now moving to Audrey Battu, who's the Director of Essential Medicines at CHAI. an organization that has scaled many products across HIV, diagnostics, oxygen, and I know Audrey has many insights to share from the organization and how they work in partnership with government, important stakeholder and scale. Audrey.
Thanks, Kara. Really excited to be here, and thank you so much for having me. Chai was founded by President Clinton after he left office, and really the focus of Chai initially was we saw a market trap in the HIV space where the demand was significant, the need was significant, but there was also, I think, demand in the sense of some willingness to pay for products for treatment of HIV, but the price was simply too high. It was inaccessible in most low resource settings. And so Chai came in and focused on shaping the market to map that demand and supply together to bring down the cost of those commodities by selling them at scale and bringing countries together in a buying consortium to be able to drive down that cost. And I think since then, there's a lot of lessons that we've learned in our work in shaping markets. And I think the things that stick out in my mind over the past couple, over today, yesterday, just a couple of things. One is for Chai, we really work at the service of and in partnership with government. There's no country that Chai works in where the government of that country hasn't invited us to be there and work in partnership with them. So we really believe in government. And I will say that it is very challenging to have a vision where you can take a product to scale if you do not understand the role of government in that. They're oftentimes your end user. They can be your purchaser. They can be the influence behind other purchasers. And so just really the importance of the role of government. And then the second thought I've had over the past couple days is to not start with a product, really start with the market. And so I think sometimes, at least when innovators come to me, they're already so far down the path of thinking about their product that they haven't thought of how that can actually be taken to scale in a market. So who's going to buy it? Who's going to use it? What does that actually look like? And so I would just encourage folks who've kind of been thinking in the product space to just make sure you take a step back and think a little bit about the market and what that means over the long term. And then the last thought I have that I've really appreciated with so many folks that I've talked to here is just humility. I think it takes a lot to bring a product forward, but it also takes a lot of humility to be able to say, maybe this isn't working, maybe I need to pivot, maybe I need to think differently, and just making sure that you keep that mindset throughout is so important because you can't get so attached that you lose that perspective. And so I've seen that a lot, even just yesterday in speaking to folks on their posters, just a lot of questions about advice or guidance, and that attitude, I think, will really get you very far if you're going to bring forward a product in the global health space. Those are my quick thoughts.
Great. Those were wonderful thoughts. So I'd like to, Sashi, you showed a lot of different types of products, whether it's a cane or some of the more complex regulated devices. I guess, could you talk a little bit about the different successes you've had, and is there a common key to those successes with different products?
Yeah, one of the things which definitely, as what everyone has been saying, look at the market first rather than looking at what you can innovate. So, for example, the Brilliance phototherapy unit, I mean, there was a big gap in terms of a product which was needed, or the need. There was a need. People were buying, as what the demand is, that the people were buying products, which was not effective. So it was a clean fit there. The only thing which was happening was we needed to bring the prices down, and that's what really triggered the market. We really brought the prices down, most affordable, yet we made profit, and that's what triggered the market, and we could really go well. So one side is market and trying to bring the prices in such a way, and normally what happens is most of the times, most of the innovators have a thought that the The BOM, the BOM cost is your selling price. That's very dangerous. I mean, you'll have to make sure that you make profit too. So there's lots of cost added. I mean, regulatory is a huge cost. I mean, so all these costs have to be put together, and then you make a profit. That's very important. Pricing it down doesn't mean that you really price it down in such a way that you're not there after a few years. Yeah.
Okay.
So the most important thing is pricing and looking at the market. That's what I would say. Yeah.
Great. Do you find, Noah, at VIA, are there keys to success in the products that you distribute?
There definitely are. I think, to go back to Tor's keynote, there's the 3Ds that he laid out, but the fourth one that I think is as important is demand, and that there's actually going to be, that the product delivers enough value and that there's demand there that people are willing to buy it. And I think sometimes I think a lot of innovators don't realize that sometimes you're going to have to build that demand. It's not there. It's just not latent demand. There are products, if we're introducing a new CPAP or something like that, people understand what the product is. It's a pretty, if you're going to sell Pumani, you're not selling people on CPAP. You're selling them on the Pumani CPAP or the Vayu or whatever other products there might be. But they understand it and they know that they want it already. I think that there are other classes of products where that demand's not there yet. The need, absolutely, to your point, can be there. But people aren't yet ready to prioritize that as a solution. They're not ready to pay for that. So you need to be ready to build that demand.
Sure. Dick, how about at Hatch? Have you had success with some products over others? And what are the keys to the success of products that have worked well?
Yes, we have had success over several products, and it's interesting because one of the products is Sashi's product. He's just seated opposite VIA, and that's the phototherapy. I think I don't think it's just a price issue alone. I know there's been this perception that in Africa, price is key, price is important, but I think the market is changing. It's more of a balance between price and quality. In fact, I would say quality is at 70% or 7 out of 10, and price is at 3. So price is important, but it's taking a second place from what I think. So people are becoming a little bit more cautious about quality. So in as much as they want value for money, but they want a competitive price for something that is quality. People are, Africa is, I should use the term, is waking up. So that has been one product. The second product has been oxygen concentrators. I'm not sure whether this is because of COVID, because this happened, I think, in 2021 when we were just coming out of COVID. We did a lot of oxygen concentrators in Tanzania. I think it was a government tender, so I'm not sure whether it was because of COVID, but that has been another product again that we've had quite a good scale in the market. And I think for concentrators, it's more of the need. I think they were needed at that time, and not necessarily the price. The price for concentrators in the market is more or less within a range. So I would say price tempered with quality is very, very key. But I think, and I know people tend to overlook this, but how you push the product in the market is very key. I think particularly our product, the product ranges in the maternal and newborn sector, it's a bundle of product. They are not known in the market. So how the companies or organizations are able to market to particular niches, I think that's very, very key. Just by the mere fact that we were able to market the products in the niches that had volumes, like the faith-based organizations, I think that was very, very key. And finally, just the role of the people marketing, that is the reputation of the distributors is very key. The distributors who are able to win government tenders, of course, get huge orders, and we have more products going to the market.
Great, thank you. So it's what I'm hearing, cost is important, but quality is also important. So maybe value and demonstrating that value to the stakeholders. Audrey, you mentioned government's really important. Have there been some technologies that you've worked with or innovators that you've worked with where you thought it would scale real quickly and it didn't? And what lessons do you think innovators can learn from that?
Yeah. I think Chai as an organization is usually pretty unwilling to take on the attempt to scale something if we don't think that the buy-in is there. And so usually the place that we actually start out with is having some of those conversations with government, with facilities, with end users to see if that's actually going to be there. But I think in addition to government, context is really important. So maybe a good example of this is several years back, global health, there was a big movement, a big push around zinc and ORS for treatment of pediatric diarrhea. And WHO had come out with guidelines about co-packaging those. And so there was this big push to have co-packed products. And so entities, were pushing the buying of that without thinking about what currently existed in the market and how it was operating. So as an example, India already had a really robust market, and it was being sold in the private sector. And the co-pack came in, and it wasn't as attractive there. It wasn't well marketed at first, and so the marketing legwork hadn't been done. In Uganda, the government was really pushed by other organizations to go out and start a co-pack, and they ended up paying more money, significantly more money for a co-packaged product than what they had been doing with the two standalone products. And so I think sometimes, there's a step back and some thinking that needs to happen. So Ethiopia actually did it really well. What they did is they took all the single products they had on the market and they bundled them. They continued buying singles for a while until they had a low enough priced co-pack available. Then they did a product switch. In the meantime, they did bundling and they pushed the product out. And so I think you really have to know very well what your local context is, your market, your pricing, and what your scale-up strategy is.
Great. What about Noah, Dick, Sashi, any innovations that you thought would scale faster, but like the co-pack oil rehydration salts didn't for some reason?
Yeah. So we had a product, again, innovation coming in, which was foot-operated resuscitator. I mean, a fantastic idea, isn't it? You have one hand free. I mean, you could do resuscitation with the foot. It's a fantastic idea. It really went well. In the sense we said that it will be, and it was mostly those curious guys who wanted to buy them and find out what it is that was never used in a hospital. So they found it very difficult to use it in a hospital. But if you look at this case, it could do the suctioning, it could do resuscitation, it could do blending, everything together in a device which is foot operated. Fantastic. But it never scaled. Why? Because if you look at it, the requirement, in a resuscitation situation, we didn't understand the situation. You need a resuscitation device immediately. You can't set it up. Yeah, so that's it. So this is one thing which we couldn't scale, even though the fantastic idea. All the guys appreciated, who has seen it, appreciated the idea. We never scaled.
I think ours was an obvious case. A point of care bilirubinometer. It's called, I'm sure some of you have heard about it. It's called BeliDX. It hasn't really scaled to our expectations, and the reason basically has been because of price and plus the price of the consumables. We are working on it, but it was obvious that once you bring a product to the market, you have to get the price right. I think this is a case of having to get the price right, particularly the price of the consumables, because there's a lot of, let me use the word stuff, from China and India. I've used that word stuff intentionally, that they could be cheap, but good. So if we come up with a quality product, but we don't get it right in price, then it becomes hard to scale. So that was one product, but we're working on it. Hopefully we'll be able to get it right.
I mean, we definitely have examples of products that have scaled up well and those that haven't. I think probably another key ingredient there is just patience. Like sometimes it just, like if there is need and demand is building, you just have to give it time. I mean, I think Trish will know well the story of the NASG. That was my first project at Path many, many, many years ago. And it took a long time to scale up. And what we know just through my experience at VIA, we've seen, for example, just within South Africa, we know there were basically 5 that we sent into the country first. It went to midwives. They started using them. Their hospitals that they were associated with were like, oh, this is interesting. Sent more. And then it got put onto provincial tenders, and it's continued to scale up from there. But it took a really long time. So I think you just have to be really patient sometimes.
Be prepared to pivot, as Roger mentioned earlier. Leave enough money or gas in the tank, right? To pivot, and have humility, I think, to know when it's time.
Yeah, and I think
to change.
Also knowing your market. So I mean, we've talked about that a lot, but I think oftentimes we think of the market in the context of just the government, and that expectation is that you're going to go zero to party. Full speed.
That's a great transition. So before you scale, you have to launch.
Yeah.
How should innovators be thinking of launching? We heard go in one country, go deep, start in a lot. Can you talk a little bit about launch and the type of stakeholders that are important during that launch phase?
I mean, I might defer to others. Yeah.
Everyone is the stakeholder. There's a lot of stakeholders. I think in order to launch a product in most of the settings that we're talking about, it's really complex in terms of compliance and regulatory in those spaces. And so being really mindful of that and picking locations where you have seen products have a history of going to scale in those countries. And folks can tell you, which environments are a little bit friendlier to take a product to scale and not. I do think that most countries, it's really challenging to take a product to scale unless there's some evidence of that product working in that country. And so you have to be willing to pilot or sell to private sector, kind of find some champions within the market initially to ensure that you're kind of seeing what that looks like on the ground. And then I think in terms of the going to scale, like make sure the legwork is done first. Like for us, for example, for zinc, one of the things that was really important, it needed to be sold over the counter. And so we had to get that regulatory space cleared first. In countries where there was a high amount of volume happening in the private sector, we weren't going to get to scale unless we cleared that out of the way and made that possible. So I think just really understanding what that's going to look like, picker-friendly location to do that, but then really understand that context and environment.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things which always, any country you go, whichever place you go, one of the things which we need to definitely think of, products like what we have, which needs a constant touch point, in terms of, service and so on. We need a distributor who can has the technical knowledge and also the technical staff who can, be behind the product to make sure it's working everywhere. So that's key in a distribution network. It's just not, as what Dick was saying, it's not a middleman just trying to pass on the product. It has to be more than that. That's pretty important for a product to survive in the market. And that's what I would say is a success in scaling it up.
Are there countries that other countries look to do, or do we really have to do a pilot in every country? Is there some regionalization, or there's some first movers?
Yeah, so if you look at it, most of the products, I mean, if you look at products which are already existing, I mean, it's just I would say a delta improvement on what's existing, then you don't require any of those. But otherwise, you need an advocacy group in that country. You need some person who is going to advocate this product in that country. And if you don't have that kind of a lead in that country, it's very difficult. Even though you may have a very good distributor, but if you don't have the kind of people who are either in the government or in the user group who will be advocating this product, you'll never be successful.
Great. So a key opinion leader, a KOL of some sort to champion.
Yeah. Okay. So I would even add saying that one of the major success for the cane was we had an advocacy group. The group which was the disabled. The people with the disabilities who were there in the government. They were promoting this product, so it was very, very easy for us to scale.
I think for us it was first of all understanding the market in the country, and by talking about the market in the country, it's understanding, is it a mainly public sector majority market, or is it private sector? I just want to give an example of two countries that we worked in, Kenya and Tanzania. So when we came in the market in 2021, Tanzania is 70% or more public. Kenya is 50-50 public and private. So the approach that we used for Kenya and Tanzania was different. For Tanzania, it meant that because it's 70% public, then we had to get a distributor who has connections or relationships with the public, with the government, and that's another. I'm sure some of you know, and we've done quite well. Now for Kenya, we got a mid-tier distributor who is more or less a private sector guy, and now the approach in Kenya was we used resellers, because resellers can get to both the private and the public. So to me, I think for our experience as Hutch, it's been more of what market and what approach. For Nigeria and for other markets, again, that's the same approach that we use. And then maybe just finally, it's also not just about creating awareness or marketing, it's ensuring that you're getting the niche right. Many people waste a lot of money, but you don't see the results. So for us, strategic working with pediatric associations and gynos as well. We're planning to work now with gynos because we're going to do point of care ultrasound is key. So we first of all establish at the associations that we are working with, do they have members? Do they have connections with the ground and all that? And I think the pediatric associations of all the countries have been very, very beneficial to us.
Great. So associations, advocacy organizations, and in addition to KOL clinicians and government. Okay, good.
I would say that those are all really important. They're common ingredients, like having key opinion leaders or advocates within the country. But I don't think there's any cookie cutter approach. And I think probably one of the best things that you can do if you're looking to launch your product is to talk to the people who've just done it. There are people in this room, like Sona and Nimi and Lena. So many people, Greg, there's so many people here that have now done it, who will know what the specific pitfalls are within the country or the market that you're trying to hit. Things that you would, quite frankly, you'd just never even imagine you're going to hit. And hopefully they've already figured out a way around those obstacles. So, yeah.
Great. So at events like this, trying to engage the community and get to know each other and exchange business cards, if those exist anymore. Great. So how should innovators engage with distributors? When's the right time? When's the right time to approach a manufacturing organization? When's the right time to a partner? When's the right time to engage with Chai?
Well, for VIA, I'm kind of a geek when it comes to product development. I'm super happy to talk to people early. That's probably not the best use of either person's time, but I don't have that much to share when it's really early. Not anything more than's been talked about here on this panel. But I do think that for us, as you get closer to market, like knowing that you know what your business model is going to be, what your pricing is going to be, like you can come to us and ask like what's worked in the market. You know, it doesn't have to be totally nailed down, but you should have a pretty good idea of what you're going to do. And then to actually get listed within our marketplace, you need to be manufacturing. Like you need actual, you know, sustainable supply of product. Because we do get a lot of people who are like, we're ready. We just got to get, in 3 months we'll have our CE mark and we'll be ready to go. So let's get everything like listed. You're like, no. When you have that approval, come talk to us.
Okay, great. What about you, Dick? CE mark required before a conversation with Dick Oranja?
Well, CE mark is important, but truth be said, I don't think that CE mark and I don't think that CE mark is being taken seriously in Africa. It's there as a requirement, you know. CEFDA, they'll talk about CEFDA, but I think it's more. It's become something that is it's a tradition, but then I'm not sure about the value that CE or FDA is important. Get me right. I'm not saying that CE or FDA is not needed. It is needed, but there are products that have no CE and they are good. That's controversial, I know. So yeah, but just coming to the question on what time you need to engage with the distributors, I think to us it's more during exhibitions, local exhibitions and during Arabelt. But I think the key thing is what credibility or reputation has the distributor established. I think that's also very key. That will determine how fast the product will be scaled. To me, the time of engagement is not really important. The importance is what is your reputation as a distributor. I mean, whether we engaging you at the pilot phase or when we're starting the product, if you don't have that reputation, if you don't have the muscle, if you don't know what you're doing in the market, whichever time, you know, even if they engage you when the thoughts is still in their brains, you know, you'd still fail. So that's to me.
Great.
Yeah, because I did all the things, starting from innovation to manufacturing, distribution. So it's a wrong question to me, but anyway. So one of the things which I've seen.
But you partnered with others, and when did they?
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So one of the things which I find is that be early on with the manufacturer and the go-to-market guy, because they will tell you if you're doing it wrong, or you're thinking it wrong. So it's very important that the manufacturer and the distributor or the person who's going to be, you know, go-to-market guy should be along with you in the beginning, so that they tell you whether it's going to be successful. Because if they're going to be putting their money, you're there. If they're not, please move away. That's what I would say.
I think honestly happy to have a conversation anytime in the process. I will say Chai is product agnostic. You know, we don't, you know, we're pretty flexible about that. We want to see the best value for money in the market. And so the questions that we're going to ask you are about your business case, when your break even is happening, what the value add is of your product compared to any of your competitors. Did you do your landscaping? You know, those are the things that we'll ask. I think where we're willing to support a product to go to scale, honestly, like if there's someone that comes in a year later that has like a newer, better, faster, cheaper, more effective, etc., like we will pivot. And so I think that is different than some folks who will, you know, champion and hold your hand all the way through. But I do think we're going to be honest about it. We're going to give you the feedback that probably needs to be heard. And so at any time in the process, I think we're happy to do that.
That's actually pretty kind. It might not feel like it at the time, but in the long run, it's pretty kind. I want to open up to questions that the audience might have, or I'm just going to keep asking this panel questions. So if you have a question, please go up to the mic, and so that'll be an indicator for me. Okay, I'd like to talk about who is the customer? Who are your customers at launch and at scale?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. So for us at VIA, our customers are local distributors and NGOs. So we're a little bit unique because we're not manufacturing the product. So I think for us, we have this network of distributors who are then selling on to hospitals and clinics and pharmacies and all of those sort of end users that will be the ones who actually use the product. It would be an interesting question to see, like, as you scale, how that sort of end user group changes. And to be honest, we haven't looked at that. We don't collect that data.
At launch, our customers are the mid-tier customers, mainly faith-based organizations and private customers. The reason is because you're still not known. In 2021, those were our customers when I was coming in. As we grow to scale, as we expanded, NGOs become to us key customers because they have the money. We prefer our model. We prefer few customers who taking large orders than getting 1, 2 here. It's a lot of energy. You work so hard, sweat so hard, and make little. So we prefer having few customers who are giving us large orders, and that makes our work easy. And I think we've been doing that. We're just doing that for point of care ultrasounds even. We just launched point of care ultrasounds in July for a project with Gates Foundation. Already we have two customers who are buying almost 700. One in Nigeria wants 500 units, and one in Kenya. We're discussing 200 units now. You see, those are only two customers, and you're talking about 700 units. Gates has given us a target of, I think, 900 for 3 years. So basically, two customers are hitting your target. So that's our model.
Yeah, quickly. One of the major customers, as I keep seeing it across for the last 35 years, is the governments. Government is the biggest customer, wherever it is. So we find whatever we do, if you're focused on what we want to do for the governments, we do it right.
Go ahead. One of the issues, I think, there's plenty of demand for the products, but in many countries, they don't have the hard currency to pay for it. Even the government may be delayed. And I think that goes to the issue there are not a lot of local manufacturers taking place, or even if they are, you have to import so many parts of the component to do that. I was just curious how you're sort of working around that today. Maybe, Sashi, your company probably sees a lot of that, I would think, with imported products.
Yeah, it's difficult. We borrow from banks to support our working capital to sustain this. So our cycle, that's what we see. The working capital cycle becomes very long, and it's not very nice. Yeah, definitely. This is, unless and until it's from an NGO or somebody, or from Hatch, which they pay up front and then take it from us.
And just another anecdotal comment. The gentleman next to you had mentioned the quality of the products. About 20 years ago in Malawi, we built a shopping center that has a ShopRite Checkers in it. Everyone told us that we were crazy to invest in that nobody had any money. And yet, once you had a quality product, it wasn't upper class that was shopping there, it was a consumer class, and they had the money to buy products that were good. And I think in a lot of the markets, if you have, people know the difference between the two, and if your product isn't good, they don't sacrifice their currency. But if you have a good product, people recognize that, and price is not the barrier necessary, it's the quality of the product, and that's something to bear in mind. So thank you.
Hi, yes, thank you. I'm Sonia and I work at Rice360. A general question, I don't know if you guys already touched on it, so feel free to pass it up, but maybe for Via, how do you decide which products to sell? Like, what do you look at? Product specifications, people requests, regulatory compliance, price, etc. And then another question, what happens if you get contacted by to buy a product in a country that you don't operate in, or you haven't sold there yet? Like, do you say yes, no, maybe? Yeah, thanks.
Definitely, we try to figure it out. So, I mean, right now we've delivered to 90-something countries. I mean, we'll do at least 50 countries a year in general. So it kind of moves around. But you know, we have logistics people on our team who will figure it out. And this actually goes to your question as well. Right now, for most countries, we have to do dollar-denominated purchases. So that can be absolutely a nightmare. We kind of leave it to the buyer to figure out how to get dollars or euro or something that, you know, fiat currency that we can use. But we have to be flexible there. So we'll take euro, we'll take dollars. People have tried to pay us in yuan. That one's a little tough. Within Kenya, we've now figured out how to do local currencies, and we'll continue to scale that elsewhere. To your question about like how do we pick products, for us, like the idea is to provide buyers with as much choice as possible. So we keep that bar pretty low. You do need to be able to meet the regulatory requirements of the countries that we're going to sell to. So, you know, to Dick's point, like CE and FDA aren't really necessary, but if you've gotten your CE, you know how to get Kenya PPP because it's basically the same. So we do look for that because then it just eases that transition. But honestly, for us, it's about how do we let so prior to VIA, I worked at Path, and what I realized is that I'm terrible at picking winners when it comes to products. Like, I'm just not good at it, and I shouldn't be doing it. Ultimately, the market should choose. And so can we get as much, you know, as many products up there as possible, and, you know, let's see what moves.
Do we have time for maybe 2 more questions? Is that okay? Okay, great. Abi.
Very quick. Thank you, everyone. So if you can comment on your experience, if you have any, on decommissioning.
Anybody have any?
Yeah, we have done a few of them, decommissioning in the sense, you know, trying to take the product out of the hospital and taking it back into the different places where it can be scrapped. So that's based on the government policies in that place. So that's been done for some of the places in India. We have never done it internationally.
We are still new 4 years, so we have good policies on decommissioning, but we've still not reached that level, so I'm not in a position to comment.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, my name is Opeyemi from Nigeria. I work with Nest. So, yeah, thank you for all your insight. Yeah, really, it's been very expressive. What I would like to ask, back in Nigeria, we've done a couple of facility assessments, and we use this, this approach to understand, the context of many facilities, even before we go in to say, oh, we want to support you. So one of the things we usually find out, especially with some facilities that already have equipment, medical equipment, is the fact that they procure equipment from manufacturers directly sometimes, and the equipment gets to them. But when the equipment begins to have developed faults, they find it difficult to be able to find solutions to those problems. Usually is that, oh, we don't have any contacts. We don't know who to reach out to, no contact with the manufacturers and things like that. So, of course, that's a challenge when it comes to customer care, isn't it? So because sometimes the product just comes from the manufacturers, not even from distributors. So I would just like to ask, maybe this question goes to Mr. Sashi. Do you have any established channel that people are able to reach out to from any part of the world, where people are able to, if they have issues with your products will always develop faults, isn't it? So that they're able to reach out to and ask questions that they can use just for the purpose of maintenance practices and for the purpose of troubleshooting and things like that. Do you have such that is established that people can always reach out to? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. That's a fantastic one, because I think it keeps me thinking about what do we do with products which are there. I mean, last 35 years, so many places, people don't, new guys, they don't know how to use it. It's going to be a problem. It's a fantastic, thought. I think I should think through on this and then come up with a solution. At the moment, I do not have a solution, but definitely I will think about it and definitely come up with that. Yeah.
Maybe just a quick thought on that. One of the things that we've done when we're supporting government in the procurement of products is to require the manufacturer to provide initial training, full training, like come to the country, be in country, train all the biomedical engineers on everything that happens with that device, so that they can take it apart, they can put it back together again. And so I do think requiring that on some of the products, in addition to the full manual and all of that, I think is really important. So as much as you can get that bundled in the initial procurement, it's really important. But I do think working alongside the government system that's in place with biomedical engineers is really important, because I do think there will always be a time where it's hard to reach that manufacturer, or they may not have as much willingness. I think you can work with entities that provide that as a service. But I would think about that at the point of procurement itself, because breakdown is inevitable.
Maybe just to also comment on that, we have a feedback loop in Hatch. And in fact, thank you for that question, because now I can explain a little bit about our value proposition. We have a feedback loop from the customers in case a product has an issue. We get that feedback loop from the distributors directly to us, and then we get that complaint to the manufacturer. And we've had two of our products. One was the pulse oximeter, and the other one was the oxygen concentrator. I'll not mention the brands. They had issues, so we got the information from the end users, the customers, on what really were the issues. We got this to the manufacturer. The issues were changed, and new products were, taken back to the customers, and that has really worked out well. So that is one of our key value adds, and one of the reasons why then Hatch becomes different from other non-profit or other distributors is that most distributors don't have that mechanism, of going to the end users, getting the issues, taking your time and getting it to the manufacturers, following through diligently, ensuring that the issue is solved and you get it back. So that's one of our key value adds, and that's what we want to continue doing to ensure that the medical graveyards that we pointed out there becomes a thing that will, again, won't occur. So just to comment on our process.
And sounds like there was some applause for you. Last comment. Okay. I would say that we take a slightly different approach, sort of lighter touch. I think that there's an interesting idea to be able to require that. I think a lot of manufacturers that sell a $2,000 unit are not going to fly halfway around the world to educate everybody on that. So for us, it's about how do we leverage technologies to be able to do that? How do we make sure that the training manuals, the videos, everything is there? And then because we're a website, people find us and contact us if there are issues, and then we can communicate with the manufacturers. We have really good relationships there.
So this is the beginning of a longer conversation, but I want to encourage the people with remaining questions, William and Millicent, to come in the next day or two, come talk to these visionaries and these people that are really actually on the front lines of trying to get lots of products launched to scale. So please join me in thanking our panelists today.